Okay. Hello everyone. Thank you for having your cameras on. It's great to see people's faces at least once. So my name's Eric Blank and I work at Theodore Payne Foundation in the sales yard, and I teach some classes and I work in the landscape as well. Really quickly, I would like to, if you look at your chat, you'll see the Theodore Payne land acknowledgement. And I had to copy and paste because I was concerned about my pronunciation of the names. So just to let you know, we take that seriously, and we're honored to be on this land. So please read that. I'll give you a minute.
Anna.
Okay, so thank you for doing that. Welcome to the Certified Native Plant, the California Native Plant Certified Landscaper class. It's put on by the U.S. Green Building Council of Los Angeles, Theodore Payne Foundation, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, California Native Plant Society. So we all work together to develop this course and to present it to you. We did the land acknowledgement. Really quickly, I'll just, here's the curriculum. Week 1, we're going to talk about the reasons why you might want to use native plants in your landscaping business, and the process of putting a garden together quickly, years 1 through 4, or from install to year 4 maturity. We don't go over it in minute detail, but we talk about some of the highlights, and the details will be in your book. Week 2, plant ID. You'll need your flashcards, so please pick them up if you possibly can. Week 3, soil. We'll get to whatever the homework is before then. Irrigation is week 4. Week 5, irrigation number 2, and we have a representative from LADWP here to talk about rebates on that week. Week 6, weeding and integrated pest management. Week 7, pruning. Week 8, garden assessment and utilizing your certificate. Also, there are 2 practicums. I don't have the dates in front of me. They should be sent to you. Those are in-person workshops at TPF, most likely hosted by me. And that is an irrigation workshop and a pruning workshop. So we take you around, and it's basically a site examination. We tell you how we do it at TPF. Doesn't mean, it means that we have very specific, well, our site is our site and your sites will be your sites, is what I'm trying to get to. So that's it. Those are optional, the in-persons, but we highly recommend it. It's kind of fun. We all get to walk around together and actually see each other in person. So there's a question. Okay. Okay, there was a raised hand.
Yeah, that's me. I was just wondering if one of my employees can also come to the pruning practicum, or is it just for the registered participants?
Personally, I don't care. I'm not sure what the boundaries are on the program. So maybe contact
They would have to be
Makita.
registered. Yeah, They would have to be registered.
Okay, yeah. So sorry about that. You'll have to pass on the information. We also will be having the Zoom classes up on Zoom, and you should be able to, hopefully we'll get them posted before the next class. So that's the goal. You know how things are. Sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't, but that is our goal. So quickly, let me just tell you about who I am, and then I'd like to hear about who you are. Like I said, I'm Eric Blank, and let's start really quickly. I'm not going to run down my whole life, but it started with my grandparents hanging out with my grandmother in her yard, and she had poppies and salvias out there, and she was an early customer of Theodore Payne, and this was in the 70s. So I feel like it really got in there early, and I always couldn't really understand why when I walked by certain gardens, I felt something felt right, you know. So fast forward many years later, I finally was able to have my own garden, and I went to TPF. It's not like TPF was on my mind all the time, but that just seemed, you know, I knew that that was a place to go. So I did, and that was about 20 years ago. And then I had a career in sound editing. I did that for many years. And then finally, when it was time to make a shift, what happened? Oh, I started volunteering at the school garden. And through that, I met a landscape architect. And when work was slow, I started helping him out with installs, private gardens, and did that for a while, few years. And then I was able to get a position at Pitzer College, and they have an extensive native plant garden there, various gardens. They have the John R. Rodman Arboretum. They have the Outback Preserve, which is a 3-acre area that they preserved because they were developing other land, so they decided to preserve that land. And then they have the Robert Redford Conservancy, which is a beautiful native plant installation, and that borders on the Bernard Field Station, and there's all kinds of stuff going on at Claremont. So that's it. After that, I was fortunate enough to get a job in June of 2020 at TPF, joined the sales yard, just dropped right in, and was just overjoyed to be surrounded by people sharing the same interests as me, and to be able to just converse about it on a daily basis. Really love it. So that's my, you know, I look like an old guy who might have been doing this for 50 years, or, you know, maybe that's a stretch, but I'm on my second career, and I'm learning from you guys. I'm learning every day. And I have some things to share as well. So let's, I'm just going to start. I have a roll sheet. Can you believe that? There it is. I'm going to start with the first person, and I'm going to ask you, or I'm going to see if you're here, and then I'm going to ask you to share a little bit about why you're here, what you're trying to, what you think you might get out of the program. So Beatrice Almaraz. If I butcher your name, let me just say, if I butcher your name, please forgive me.
You got it right.
Okay.
All right. So I don't have a business, a landscaping business, but I do love gardens. The same like you, my grandfather, I always followed him around when I was little. And now I share the love with my grandmother that's still around, 90 years old. During the pandemic, I just started gardening to get, you know, all that anxiety out of my system. And right now I have like 150 plants.
Wow. That's some anxiety right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's where the love for the plants come.
Yeah. Thank you, Beatrice.
You're
Beth
welcome.
Abels. Abels. Beth.
You had it right the first time. It's Beth Abels.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not able to put my camera on right now, but
That's okay.
I will for the other classes. So I'm a professor. I teach architecture at a community college. I have a permaculture certificate, design certificate, and I study native plants and their medicinal uses. And I'm very interested in regenerative farming. So I have all these kinds of different landscapey things going on. And where I work, Pierce College has 450 and in the middle of the San Fernando Valley. So we, as a group of faculty, have been looking at how we can support the farm and the native plant community on our campus. And so having some expertise about how to grow them and plant them and preserve them is really important to me. So that's what I'm hoping to get out of this course. And I'm so excited to be here.
That's great. I have a deep affinity for Pierce College. My grandfather worked there for a few years, and they named the football stadium after him.
Oh my goodness, wow.
Yeah. I don't know if it's still named after him, but
Shepherd.
kind of cool.
Shepherd?
Yeah, Shepherd. Yeah, John.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
It still is. Oh, that's very cool. I'd love to hear about it sometime.
Okay, Caitlin Keller. Hit that unmute button, Caitlin. Okay, another time, maybe later. Connor Skoltak. Connor, unmute.
Thank you.
There we go.
Sorry. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. My name's Connor. Originally from the Midwest, grew up outside Chicago. I'm a recent transplant to Los Angeles. I studied sustainable food systems, urban food systems in school. Did a lot of urban agriculture work in Chicago before moving out here, and work more as a garden educator and do some time part-time landscaping work, but don't have my own business. So just looking to learn more about the native ecology and learn as much as I can. So yeah.
Okay, great. Daniel M. O'Grady or Magdalena. Okay, Magdalena.
We're
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're here. Thank
All
you.
right. Great.
So, go ahead.
Well, you want to
Okay,
hear my
yeah,
kind of
I'm on
history,
here.
why I'm sorry, I'm
Go ahead.
kind of new to doing classes. Anyway,
If you're,
pretty much most of my knowledge has come from Hard Knocks, I guess. Well, let me take that back. I did work. My last job was with the city. A couple different positions, but I was 10 years in Rec and Park and learned a lot of things, mostly maintenance. But I'm here to learn plant identification and whatever you guys have to offer. And my wife she's the management of I have a little landscape company. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that it? Maggie, you want to
That's
share?
it.
Okay.
Hi. Oh, I just have a live of plants and our front yard is mostly natives. And from Theodore Payne Foundation. Just wanting to learn more as much as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from Danielle Boggs.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. My connection might cut me off, but I help out with my father-in-law's landscaping business, and I wanted to give him a variety, or I guess a better understanding of how to add native plants into his business. that's why I'm doing this.
Okay, great.
So,
It's a good place to be. Eduardo Quiros. Anybody? Eduardo. No, Eduardo? Not today? Not yet? Okay. Ellie Honan.
Hi, I am also from the Midwest. I've been living out here for about 6 years and I manage a farm in San Diego. It's a nonprofit community farm called Coastal Roots. So we're always looking for ways to incorporate more native plants for our IPM. And then we also donate food to 2 tribal communities in our area. So we're looking also to be growing more culturally appropriate foods to be donating to those communities.
Okay. Thank you. Emilio Castellanos.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, thank you for putting this course together. Nice to meet everybody. I've also had a love for plants since I was very little. Gardening and helping the gardener and everybody who was around the garden. And then, the environment. I got involved in research mostly, interest, native bugs. And then I was a part of Waddles Farm in Hollywood for a few years. I was on the board of that and really got a lot of education from some of the members. And then we got involved in the school garden, much like you, Eric, I think, and we have a big property over at Fountain Avenue in Hollywood. And we put the whole thing together, and that just extended my love for, seeing what was possible and working with native plants and the climate and how it affects the soil, et cetera. So I'm really now looking at bringing, bug populations like native bugs and want to find a way to incorporate this, translate it more from a hobby, which it's not really a hobby, but somehow I just been involved in this for all my life. And I just want to be able to translate it and see if I can find some avenues of revenue related to this, whether it's setting up a small business or working with partnership with other people or finding a job on it, transitioning like you did. So I'm very excited about taking the course and looking forward to learning a lot.
All right. Thank you. Eric Resendez. Eric, I like the way you spell your name.
It's the right way to spell it. I started working in like horticulture when a landscape designer took me under their wing, and that was a few years ago. Since then, I worked in nurseries. I recently was working as a gardener at the Huntington Library, and I would do some like landscaping on the side. And one of my clients told me that I should take this class. She even found the link for me and everything. So now I'm here, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Gabriella Pettibone. Gabriella. Okay. Hale Yuhan.
Hi, I'm Hallie Yuhan. I'm a certified landscape designer and have owned my own business since 2007. I'm based in the LA area, specifically do a lot of projects in the San Gabriel Valley area. And since the beginning, because I did a program at CSUN actually, and they did a lot of plant identification through there, and I've been specifying drought tolerant plants since the beginning. but I've kind of shied away from California natives a bit because of their unique care and water needs. But I have been getting increasing demand and requests for California natives, and especially particularly in commercial projects and multi-unit projects. When you're dealing with LID requirements, there's a lot of need for California natives. So I've wanted to increase my knowledge and education about the use of them.
Thank you. We've got quite a range of folks. Jeanette Acosta. Hey, there she is.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, good day.
Oh, we lost you. There you go.
Okay, good afternoon again. I'm Jeanette Acosta, and I apologize for signing on late. We've been dealing with fire warnings in our area. I'm an Indigenous permaculture educator, and I've been a part of the TPF family because I used to live in Los Angeles, but I live by Yosemite now. And I'm super excited about this course. I've been teaching permaculture for about 10, 15 years. And so this is just to enforce my toolkit and what I use in the world.
Okay, thank you.
Super happy.
Let's hear from John Tikotsky.
That's me. Hello, everyone.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
yes.
All right. This is great. I love it. I've been in landscape design installation for about 35 years. I've been a licensed landscape architect for about 24 of those years, sole proprietor. And I have to say, shout out to all of those Pierce College alumni. I was there for a long, long time. And that's really where I got so much great information on plants and irrigation and so on. So I'm glad to hear that they're still working away there. I've done a lot of stuff as a landscape architect. I won't go through it, but my big thing right now, which I've been following through for about 3 or 4 years, is pollinator gardens. Pollinator gardens, beneficial insects. That's kind of my big thing that I love to integrate. And just recently, we started back up. We're teaching what's called the Lawn Be Gone classes for the Department of Water and Power. So I love to teach, so that's been great. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, really. And my philosophy in life is there's always something new to learn. And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to take this class, especially because of the wonderful diversity of folks in this class. There's always going to be something good to learn. So that's it. Thank you.
I think you're right. There's always something good to learn. Jolynn Pineda Brock.
Hello, my name is Jolynn Panetta Brock, and I started gardening at the beginning of the pandemic and got really heavy into it. Now have quite the garden, just added passion fruit. And it really, put me at the beginning of everything, and I got deeper and deeper and further involved and started exploring, pollinator friendly plants because going outside and using a paintbrush to pollinate your zucchini is not always fun or easy. And so the further I got into it, I stumbled upon the Ruth Bancroft Garden, and they had a dry garden design program, which I just completed. And little by little, I started sharing my new passion with friends and family and advocating for pollinator gardens or gardens that actually did something like use less water as far as like dry gardens, or provided food or provided resources for pollinators. And sure enough, when you share things like that you're passionate about, you get asked to do a lot of work. And so I have now turned this into like a small business and have also been able to do some volunteering at my daughter's local school to help kind of start planting the seed with these kids about the importance of being out in the garden and what it does for our food sources. And I look forward to learning as much as I possibly can, because I still have this imposter syndrome thing where I feel like I don't know enough. And so I'm always keen to learn more.
Okay. You know, we all deal with that. Okay, I'm torn. We have a lot of people in this class, 35 people, and we're halfway through the introductions. So I'm wondering if I should move on with the class and then pick up the introductions halfway through.
I have a suggestion also. You could
Yes.
have them type a little brief introduction in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
That way everybody can read it.
Yeah, that'd be good. I really love hearing people's voices and everything. I'm a little concerned about time, everyone. Maybe what we'll do is we'll find a place to get everybody's introduction in there. But yeah, I'm concerned we're going to use up the first hour with introductions.
Got a yes, move on.
Yeah, so Kleinen, Gibbs, we'll come back. We'll start with you and we'll pick up with the people that we missed. And Makita, we also love to hear from you. So again, here is Eric. You guys can see my screen. I'm scrolling it. Let's see. So I think I already said the goal of this session is to be able to articulate the benefits of using a California native plant certified landscaper, so that the goal is you will be telling people why they want to use you, why you are valuable. And then also we're going to go through that 4-year garden really quickly. So look at that. Oh, that's interesting. They put the thing sideways there. Why would that be? So that's what your certificate's going to look like. I assure you, they'll print it right side up. Yeah, so the goal of this program is to create a standardized professional curriculum that is aimed at training professionals on native plant maintenance. So there's a big emphasis on maintenance and less on design on this class. It's all about what you're doing after the design is done. There'll be a little bit on installation, but we really focus on how a garden matures and how you take care of a mature garden. There's a lot of stuff in here about the certified training program will help foster behavioral change by certifying landscape professionals on sustainable California native plant gardening practices. Wow, there's a lot of mouthfuls in here. But excuse me while I check my notes. So, yeah, see, basically you've got a certificate that says that these organizations came together and it puts you in line with their best practices. So that's, if you're the type of person to show a certificate, maybe you put it on the wall, maybe you put it in your portfolio. That's what this is going to give you. It aligns you with, you know, they put a lot of work into putting this program together. And frankly, I think I haven't really heard of many other ones. So the value is also a job advancement. Anybody who works in a trade understands the value of certificates. You can use that. And so you can also possibly charge more just by your knowledge. Marketing, again, it's you'll be getting logos that you can use on your letterheads, your website, things like that. You'll be getting, I do not know how those things work because I don't do that stuff, folks. But you will be getting logos that you can then add to your correspondence. So, and then lastly, the value is you'll be understanding the bigger picture and hopefully be able to pass that on to your clients. So what is the big picture? I get a little nervous, so I kind of outline this for myself so that I can make it clear for you. The big picture is ecologically minded gardening. So why? Because California is a biodiversity hotspot, and you may know what that is, you may not. What is, oh, there's a whole slide for this. So you may know what a biodiversity hotspot is, you may not, but it's not a good thing, actually. So how does a place there, now I think the count is up to 36 other biodiversity hotspots in the world. And basically in California, 75% of the original habitat has been developed or is just gone. It's not available to us right now. And also, 1/3 of our native species are endemic. So over 1,500, the qualification for a biodiversity hotspot is over 1,500 endemic species in the place that we're talking about. California surpasses that. And you can see here, this is a quick or a map of the United States, and it shows us the amount of endemic species across the United States. And you can see that California looks very different from the rest of the country. So starting white is 0, and moving all the way down to blue is over 280. And California is the only one with any blue. It's the only one with any dark green. It's the only one with any medium green. Once you finally start getting to the edges of California, I don't know if you can see my mouse, then you start getting into the levels that the other states share. And that's, you know, of course, due to our unique geography. Texas has some, you know, Florida, but I was amazed to see the middle of the country. That was very interesting to me. So California is a unique place. What are the threats to this remaining habitat? Population, just the boom, people moving in, and just the general, you know, rate of population growth. Loss of habitat, so development and deforestation. Unsustainable resource use. These are the threats to the remaining habitat that we have. And lastly, introduced non-native species. And so this is, these are the reasons why this is why we want to pursue the native plant gardening and ecologically minded gardening. So I hear a lot of people with permaculture experience, you know, same thing, but that's just a quick overview on why we're here. So again, this is just a quick rundown. This is the only program that exclusively focuses on California natives. It improves the marketability of certified gardeners. We're kind of going over this. It makes your resume stand out, provides customers and vendors with validation that you have demonstrated experience, knowledge, and skills in the complex specialty of native plants. And it's backed by TPF, CNPS, USGBC. If you don't know who these are, so Theodore Payne Foundation, TPF, CNPS, California Native Plant Society, USGBC, US Green Building Council. I believe it's the Los Angeles office that helped us on this one. The most respected names in native plant gardening and green infrastructure. So that's who you're signing up with when you do this program. How to use your certificate quickly. You can identify yourself. You can put it on a name badge. You can include your certificate. Some of this I went over already. You can include your logo on your customer proposals, show it at initial meetings with clients. You get a little sticker for your car or your window or whatever you would like to do with it. Be proud of how hard you worked to earn a certificate, you know, and that is important because you're here taking time out of your day and you're committing to a month's worth and then some of developing your knowledge about native plants. And lastly, certificate holders, employers, and homeowners may contact Theodore Payne. Right, so we've got a list. We got you on our list. And if anybody has any questions about who you are and your certification, you can have them call us and we'll verify that you went through the program. So that might be a job application. They might want to verify that you're not just writing it in there. Okay. Again, they just can't give up on telling you the benefits of this program. I think you understand the benefits of the program. Frameable professional certificate, decal stickers, we covered that. Introduction to the, yeah, so there'll be some talk about the financial aspects of native plant landscaping and training on the proper planning, proper use, tools and materials, and maintenance. So all of that can save you money so that you're not misusing these plants. You're not trying to use them in the way that you might use a traditional or an exotic plant. And then you're not having to replace those plants. So with that said, why don't we take a break? Let's take 10 minutes. Meet you back here at, oh, do we have any questions? Let's ask the questions before we take a break. Anyone? Okay. I'm going to say that's a no. Let's take a quick 10-minute break and then we'll get into the life of a garden. Luis, did you have a question? No?
I just had a quick question. They said that we'd have homework and to submit it to an instructor. Would that be you?
That will be me. I'm going to type my email in there right now. It's Eric with a K at theodorepayne.org.
Okay, thank you so much.
You betcha. Will Theodore Payne, can we skip breaks and finish early? I need a break. I'm tired of talking. So give me 10 minutes and we'll be back at 5:55. I need to wet my whistle. Will TPF offer discounts? We do have a professional discount program and you can talk to Flora at theodorepayne.org about that. Okay, I'll be back in 10.
All right, I guess everyone should probably take a restroom or water break and we'll come back in 10 minutes.
At 7:56, we'll give it the full minute. There it is. 5:56. Okay, so I just assume everybody's back. Oh, I see some people. Okay, that's nice. Everybody can hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, thank you. Cool. All right, so just quickly, I mean, just wanted to define native plants for you, from our perspective, or actually native plants are defined as plants that grew here prior to European contact. Okay, the full description of the native plant, what they are and what they aren't, is in your handbook. So please read that in case I skip over anything. One of the goals is to help you understand that, and I think it sounds like people are aware of this, but native plants, it's a big state. There are a lot of various ecosystems in the state, so not every plant. Native plants is not a term that's synonymous with drought tolerant. So that's an important thing to note. I do get people coming into the sales yard assuming that that's true. But I usually know what they mean, but it's important to make that distinction, I believe. And then, let's see. Oh, it's important to note that there are a number of plants that we see in our landscapes here in California that are almost, that we kind of associate with Southern California: the palm tree, the eucalyptus tree, the California pepper. Those are not native plants, so we're not talking about those. We're specifically talking about plants that come before European contact. And then lastly, something I didn't mention, but studies have shown that our native fauna prefer the native plants. So if you're going for a habitat garden, you'll see books on the shelf about butterfly gardens, and butterflies are not too particular, but when you're talking about full habitat garden, putting in native plants is going to get you a better, more quality level habitat garden. They can help you reduce water consumption. I'm pretty sure you folks know most of that. They help you reduce pesticides. They can help reduce your carbon footprint, reduce maintenance, although, there's a fair amount of maintenance that goes into any garden, in my opinion. Then there are the California friendly plants, and some of those are listed. You'll see some of those listed in some of the rebate programs. It's as defined here. California friendly is designated for plants that, while not indigenous to the area, are drought tolerant and generally adapted to our climate and soils, and hopefully they don't outcompete our native plants. All right, what's our next slide here? Okay, let's move on to the turf replacement. Actually, we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. There is a few pages on turf replacement in the manual. Please read it. We're not going to focus on that too much, although it is a part of, we get into that later when we start talking to LADWP. So, but one thing that we really want you to be aware of is, before you start ripping out your lawn, you need to apply for the rebate. You need to apply for the rebate and then be accepted before you start making any adjustments to your lawn. Otherwise, you're in danger of putting a lot of work in and disqualifying yourself for the rebates. So I don't have a lot of experience getting the rebates. I mean, I'm familiar with it through this course. I'm familiar with it from other people. we will get that information to you, and we will have a representative from LADWP that will give you the exact information you need. Okay. Let me adjust my papers. So moving in, so speaking about the life of a garden, basically gardens are the plants are the softscape, and it's combined with hardscape to create a garden. Okay, in a logical, as they say here, in a logical and consistent pattern. Although if you looked at my garden, you might wonder about that. I'd still call it a garden. To optimize plant health and aesthetics. So keep those things in mind. The plants themselves are the most variable factor. For plants, the first 2 years in a landscape will help you set the patterns for health throughout the plant's life. Attentive care during this phase ensures that the plant will grow, maintain itself, and reproduce successfully. If a plant struggles during this period, it may never achieve a stable, attractive, healthy state. So if you mistreat that tree when you first put it in, it may never really turn into what you thought it was going to. So that's why you want to learn how to take care of it properly. This is especially important in native plants because they are not bred for the same sorts of neglect that many exotic old world specimens have been hybridized for. I'll give you an example. I didn't write this. For example, privet hedge has been cultivated since ancient Greece. Pliny the Elder gave it its name. Horticulturalists, botanists, and gardeners have been selecting for survivability for a long time. In other words, somebody was mentioning that a lot of the plants and a lot of the trade plants are really designed for abuse. You know, they can withstand a number of different situations, and even some native plants are on that list, but in general, the native plants just don't have that as much time being cultivated as many of those go-to landscape plants. Moving on. Okay, here's what you'll be doing. Oh, that's interesting how it made it really big. So year one. So you folks probably, it makes sense. Year one, you're going to be spending more time. If you do a garden for somebody else or yourself, you're going to be spending more time in that garden with maintenance, taking care of small tasks during the first year than years 2, 3, and 4, most likely. So it's a weekly to semi-monthly visit at this time, and we'll get into all the things you'll be doing during that time. And then also, depending on your, when you install the garden. So, you know, we all know that, okay, putting native plants, the optimum time is winter through early spring. But not every client is available. You know, you may have another client during that period. And this client wants you to put it in June or July. So you have to make adjustments if you're going to use native plants during that period. We'll get in, we give you a handout and kind of show you what happens when you put a plant in the optimum time, and when you reach summer, how often you'll be watering that plant versus if you put the plant in late spring or early summer or midsummer, how often you'll be watering that plant. Basically, you'll need more water for plants that are planted later in the season. So They quickly jump to planting seasons other than fall. I'm just going to read this off so that I don't skip anything. So planting in seasons other than fall. The ideal planting season is fall through spring, as I mentioned, but if your installation did not, okay, your schedule. Santa Ana conditions are particularly important to pay attention to so they can dry out your plants. You're going to want to pay attention to if there's a prediction for Santa Ana or if one has passed through. Your plant is probably going to, it's going to lose some moisture during that period. So you can pre-water or you can do it after. Generally, we suggest that you water before the big weather events by 3 or 4 days so that the plants have a chance to soak up the water and withstand the event.
We have a comment.
Yes.
So Stephanie said, thought natives didn't like summer water. No?
It depends. So if you have, so we're talking about a new garden here. So there's a big difference between a new garden and a garden that's established. So currently we're talking new plants, and if it doesn't matter really, if within that first year, you most likely are going to have to take care of that plant and get it through the first year for establishment. And they even mention 2 to 3 years at times in here. So depending on the plant, so some plants are particularly susceptible to summer water and you have to be careful. Other plants can take what you give them. And one thing is you're going to want to keep an eye again on the weather events. So in the summer, if the temperatures are high, we'll get into this, but generally you water before the big heat wave. Okay, you keep your, like for instance, we're on a 2-week timer at Theodore Payne, and luckily it's really in sync with our heat waves lately. The heat wave will come, and then our timer will come on the next week. Then the heat wave will come, timer goes on next week. So we'll get in more into that later, but you will have to water those new plants through the summer. That's important to note. The way we water is deeply and infrequently. So we generally, so if you're getting a plant, let's say you put a plant in mid-spring and you have to water that plant, we suggest that you water that plant about once a week. And at that time, for a 1-gallon plant, we recommend that you put in 3 to 5 gallons. I usually use about 3 gallons for the plant. We want the water to go down about 18 inches so that the plant's roots look for the water down below the can. And hopefully your water also spreads out. So we want the roots to spread out and down. If you're watering very lightly, you're only going to water the top part of the soil, and you're not going to get that drought tolerant quality that you're looking for if you're using those kinds of plants. So we also suggest that you water early in the day. That gives the plant a chance before it starts getting heat stressed, possibly depending on the day, to pick up some water to get itself prepared for the day. You can water at night. There's some suggestion that because the ground may be warmer at night, that it can lead to pathogens into the plant. And so I personally learned that lesson, and I don't water at night. I water in the morning. Yeah, most timers are set for the morning, but although some people do it at night, it's true. Again, we will have a lesson on watering. So if you didn't pick all that up, if I didn't cover something, don't worry, we'll get into it. Keep your eye on wilting as far as your plants. These are things you'll be doing in year one. If a plant, so Tim came up just off the cuff. Tim is our director of horticulture. He came up with a quick saying, which is flagging. Flagging is when you see the leaves doing this. So a plant that would normally be like this and then flagging. I think you can see my motions, my gestures. If it's flagging in the morning, warning, warning. Flagging at night, you'll be all right. So flagging in the morning just doesn't have enough moisture in itself to stand erect. If it's flagging in the evening and it looked fine in the morning, you're probably all right. Although my guess is it could use a little water. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Here are some of the things you'll be doing in your first year, your installation activities. You're going to create a plant list. Yeah, very important. You're not going to till this soil. You're not going to fertilize this soil, and unless it's a really extreme case, we generally don't recommend that you amend the soil. There are ways to improve the soil. That's kind of beyond the scope right now, but yeah, the native plants are used to running lean, and so they're used to the native soil. So we don't suggest that you add anything to the holes or to the ground in general before you plant. Mulching, you'll be mulching 2 to 3 inches. You know, that reduces heat on the ground. It helps retain moisture. You want to keep that mulch away from the plant about 2 to 3 inches off the crown of the plant so the plant can breathe. You're going to evaluate the runoff potential. So if you're on a slope, you're going to pay attention to where you think the water is going to, you may have to run the sprinkler or something and see where things are going. And you're going to design, because part of the rebate programs, you design to keep the water on site, creating berms and swales to retain the moisture and get that water back in the ground. Oh, I'm going to admit somebody. So there's that. You can sow wildflowers in year one. That's not a requirement. It's an option for your client. We'll get more into that, but it can be a nice addition when you're waiting for plants to grow. You put in all those 1-gallon plants, they look kind of puny and small, but you can get some real growth out of some wildflowers and really experience the joy and start getting those habitat benefits early on. Okay. Oh, you'll stake your plants. So if you have a tree, some of you may be familiar with staking trees, or a small shrub that you'd like to keep upright, or you're concerned about wind. Don't keep the stake that comes with the plant from the nursery. It's usually tightly bound and doesn't give the plant a chance to move with the wind, which is what strengthens the stem, stalk, or trunk. So if you feel like the plant needs some support, you can create your support outside of the root ball and tie the tree bands. There are specific ways, and you can look those up on how to tie the tree bands. You see them on the street all the time, so that the tree has some wiggle room and can move. Now I've jumped to talking about trees, but can move with the wind and will strengthen its trunk that way. If you tie it too tight, it just is reliant on that support. And then you have to be aware, keep an eye on the tree. And when it gets old enough, of course, you have to remove the tree bands or the supports. You have to be careful to not let them dig into the tree. That happens a lot. You know, people put in the street trees, people put in oaks, and they forget about their supports, and the tree ends up getting scarred. Okay, so there you go. You can also use a rock. Sometimes I use a rock if I feel like a plant that's just, you know, a smaller herbaceous perennial, or anything. If I feel like it needs a little support, I don't want to bother with a stake. I'll put a rock next to it and just give it something to lean on, or, you know, something that it can move against, but not too much. That's my personal approach. Next slide. Year one, your maintenance activities. Well, you're going to be watering, that's for sure. We'll be getting into how you can be sure of, we have 2 irrigation classes, so we'll be getting into that. You'll be watering, trust me. You'll be weeding, because when you add water to that disturbed soil, you're just going to be activating the seed bank. I'm just going to say this term because I like it, and it says here, there are 2 factors that determine whether the weeds will win. Something called high propagule pressure. I love that. And another factor is referred to as high seed mass. Knowing this concept will help you think about how a cultivated landscape works to establish itself in the first 2 years. So often, you know, you've already got weed seeds in there. You're going to be activating them through, so they need 3 things. Just like any seed, sun, soil disturbance, and water will activate those seeds. So they all work alike, whether they're weeds or wildflowers. So you'll be weeding, trust me. I think you know that. You have to be vigilant. You want to catch those weeds before they flower and hopefully get them. And if you're lucky, within 2 years, you'll have seriously reduced your weed population. Also, the plants, by 2 years, your plants will have grown and to cover the ground, and you'll just get natural weed suppression that way. You'll also be tip pinching. We cover that in pruning. So you're going to, so maybe your salvias, they want to reach out and get real leggy. I've heard stories of Salvia clevelandii, which is a large salvia, 5 feet or so it can reach. And it just gets too heavy and splits right down the middle. Well, so if you pinch the tips when it's a small young plant, you're going to get a more dense growth habit, and it's going to strengthen the plant. Adjusting your smart controller. Yeah, you'll be doing that through, you're going to be keeping an eye on the weather. You'll be adjusting your smart controller. If you put your plants in during the winter, if we don't get rain, you'll be supplying that rain. Again, we'll be covering that in irrigation class. But if you get your plants in winter and they've shown some real growth through winter and spring, you'll be able to adjust your controller moving into early summer and midsummer. Again, you'll be sowing wildflowers, and then you're going to be just keeping the garden tidy in general. All right. Schedule 2. So in year 2, they're telling us this is a 2-year-old garden. You'll be going less often, hopefully, semi-monthly to monthly. I wonder why this screen is so darn big. Let me see. Nope. Okay. Semi-monthly to monthly in year 2. You can stretch out your visits. Of course, you're going to have hopefully you have a relationship with the people that you're taking the garden. You've talked to them about this beforehand, so that's not all a surprise. Moving down. Okay. Again, we're going to be planting and sowing wildflowers, although if you had a successful wildflower crop, there's a really good chance that those wildflowers have reseeded. And I personally have never actually had to add any more wildflowers to my own house. I just let the wildflowers go and go to seed, and then I take advantage of that. But you could argue that there's no guarantee that they weren't eaten by the habitat that you've created, and that you may want to reinforce those. Again, you'll be pruning, your tip pinching, you're cutting back your grasses in their off season. I usually like to do it just before they're about to grow, so that I'm not looking at a clump of a small coppiced grass ball. Coppice, if you're not familiar, means cutting it down to the ground, basically. So a small, if it's a deer grass or some kind of a warm season grass, you can cut those down pretty low, make a nice ball out of them, give them a shape for their growing season. We usually do that in the springtime. Then with your cool season grasses, so the warm season grasses growing at 80 degrees, consistent 80 degrees and above, and cool season grasses, the opposite, 80 degrees and below. And so I would hit depending on the look of the grass, if it's not looking good, I'm not going to let it sit there and not look good in a garden. I'm going to coppice it probably early if it's and reassess at some point. But cool season grass, do it in a lot of cool season grasses you can keep looking good through the summer if you give them a little water though. So and hopefully not blasting sun, but you can have some success. Water, you're going to be checking your irrigation for leaks. That is a constant thing. Every month you're going to want to run that thing, because you never know, or your client's going to call you, say, hey, we've got a leak, we've got the water running down the street and the kids are playing in the gutter, so we need you to come over here and check this out. And so those are the kind of things you'll be doing, and especially you might have some critters digging around into your drip line. That happens frequently. That's just the way it is. Again, you'll be adjusting your smart controller. You're not going to be watering this garden in the same way that you were in year 1. You're going to be reducing the water. Oh, there's something else. Here's the other part of year 2. You're going to be replanting. So plants that you've lost. Do you have a question, or Makita has a
Yes, someone, Luis Sanchez mentioned he's not familiar with tip pinching. That was on the previous slide.
Uh-huh.
Could you
Okay.
explain what that is?
Yeah, you can, it's hard to do it without a slide. It's hard to show it without a slide, but it's basically, I don't know, does anybody have any quick descriptions of that? So on a small plant, like a 1 gallon or even a 5 gallon, you can pinch those tips and have them. So instead of the leader jumping out like that, and you have 2 leaves like this, you pinch it, and then now you're going to get growth here, and you're going to spread the plant out and create a denser foliage, rather than a plant that, especially if you have these plants that are overgrown and reaching out already. Sometimes ceanothus will do that early on, and you might want to make an adjustment to that. We'll go over tip pinching later in the pruning class.
Thank you.
We have
Thank you very
prun-
much.
Yeah, we have pruning class, so we'll be going over that.
Cool. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah. What do we call that? Previews of things to come. You'll be weeding, so replanting, and then that's an adjustment because you're going to have new plants in a garden that has older plants. You're going to have to adjust your watering for those plants. You may have to go in and supplemental water those plants specifically. We have to do that at Theodore Payne all the time. We're adding new plants. We have a mature garden, and you'll hear me talk all about that. And you have to go in and make sure those plants get the water they need, and especially depending on what time of year you put those in. Okay, weeding. Yes, keep after the seed bank. You want to get those weeds before they go to seed. You just got to keep after them. You might even train your client depending on how much interaction they want with their garden. You're going to cull non-thriving plants. So your plant should grow. You should see some growth at least twice the size of the 1 gallon plant that goes in. If you don't see that plant thriving, and you know, there's a whole thing about first they sleep, then they creep, then they leap. That's year 1, year 2, year 3. So they say they sleep. 5 gallon plant might be working on its root structure, its root ball, and you might not see a lot of movement on the top, but it's working down below. If the plant looks healthy, I personally would wait. With 1 gallon plants, I also wait, but if it just looks sad and it seems like it's in the wrong place, it's, you know, you tried something out, you thought it might work, it's not working, it might be time to make a decision there. So you might even have some plants, of course, you know, plants die. We put these plants in, some plants just don't make it. So we take, you're gonna wanna assess why. You can check your irrigation. Is the plant getting enough water? You pull the plant out, see if it ever created any root structure, things of that nature. Was there a heat event? Was there any kind of weather event that causes plant to die? So you'll be making those assessments, and then you also will be making an assessment as to whether you want to try that plant again and make adjustments, or if it's just not the right plant in the right place. You're going to remulch, you know, for dressing and also to suppress weeds. You'll be staking, possibly moving those stakes out away if the plant is grown, or adjusting, loosening it up a little bit if the plant is grown and it's creating tension on the stakes or on the supports. You're going to clean your swales. So yeah, after you have a few rain events, you're going to end up with some stuff in your swales and in the gutters and all of that. So you're going to want to clean that and keep the weeds out of that area, because weeds will grow in there really quickly, and make sure that the water's flowing in the way that you've designed it. Let's see.
We have a question.
Yes.
Actually, I have one too. So the question is from Bo Williams. I believe I get that right. What is the best kind of mulch to use?
There are, you know, generally I like organic mulch, but people use rocks. We're going to see some slides later about a garden that used DG, and let's see, what else can you use? Yeah, generally we recommend that you stay away from the rubberized or non, you know, if they're any sort of, sometimes they chop up tires and things like that and create mulch out of that, but it's basically about keeping the heat off the ground. And oh, Sharon's here. Okay. And you don't want to, you don't want a lot of rubber mulch breaking down and going into your garden. You know, let's talk about ecologically minded gardening again, if that's an issue for you. So there's gorilla hair mulch, and luckily you can go to these mulch suppliers, and they have their pictures of the mulch up on the screen, and then they have you can go over there and visit them. You can get samples, all of that, and you know, you tailor it basically to the look. You can use your mulch to achieve a look in your garden. Okay, so there we go.
Right, and then I have one regarding mulch. Well, there's a few more.
Yeah.
Let's see. LADWP workshop discourage rocks, pebbles over the ground, only in the walk paths. That's Jolene. Get that. Then we have Natalie Smith said redwood mulch is nice for natives. And then Bo said specifically shredded mulch, bagged or loose from the city. And
right.
We have rocks. This is from Stephanie. Rocks, how does that add to the soil biology? Call a tree trimming company to dump in your driveway. It's usually free. Okay, I guess these are suggestions. Maybe.
Yeah, that is a fair point. You got to make sure you don't get diseased material, you know, that's one. And then specifically shredded mulch, bagged or loose from the city, it's up to you. You know, I've used the city mulch. It depends on your client. I've used it at my own house, but you know, it's not a really beautiful looking top dressing, and you get Hot Wheel tires and things of that nature, plastic parts in there. If you're willing to put up with that, then you know it's free. So
and does mulch cause or draw termites?
I'm not familiar with that issue. I mean, I can look it up and see. I haven't really had that. I see termites in buildings. I don't see termites in the ground or in the mulch.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll get into ground, but I haven't seen them in the mulch itself. Yeah, also you're not 100% sure what's in the mulch is right. You don't know what's in the mulch. So that's city mulch she's talking about, I think, or he. Okay, here's someone with a little more definitive. No danger of termites. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so here's Nathaniel says he's found mealybugs in mulch, at least that contain bark, something to be aware of. I haven't had that experience, but I believe you. Yeah, so, you know, one of the discouraging or the unfortunate things is that we're doing this over Zoom, and we would, the whole point of this thing was to meet each other and share our experiences with each other. And so you know, it's unfortunate we can't have these discussions in person and you guys can have little sidebars with each other. And lastly, before we move on, just don't use city mulch in your edible gardens. Native garden is fine. Yeah, fair enough. Okay. So we're gonna click on down. Something's not working. Uh-oh, I didn't like that sound. Okay, moving on to year 3. You're gonna move your visits from, okay, you were doing every 2 weeks to every once a month, and now you're gonna move it to, no, yeah, I guess, so you're kind of staying with the same thing, semi-monthly to monthly. Visits of 3 or 4 hours. So you're gonna want to beware, and the things you'll be doing during that period, you will be Remulching, you'll be pruning, maybe your plants have grown. Definitely salvias, you're gonna be pruning those salvias early on, because if you don't, they're going to get really big. So you can't wait. Again, we'll get into we've luckily in this handout or in your book, it talks about when to prune these plants, and we'll be getting into that. But you know, if you don't, it depends on the look you're looking for. But if you don't cut back, for instance, a salvia within the first year, if you don't cut it back after the first year, you're going to get a really stretched out plant. And sometimes that may not be the look you're looking for. So just FYI. You're going to pull overgrown plants. So you may decide that you overplanted, or maybe you did it on purpose just to fill the space until the other plants that you really wanted. And then you can decide, oh, these are doing well, I'll take this one out. Or you just have to make a hard decision, or you might decide that you like that coverage. That's aesthetic stuff. You talk to your, you can make that decision yourself, obviously, or you can, I usually like to touch base with people and find out what they're looking for. You know, how do you feel about this? You know, and lastly, you'll be cleaning the rain swales again, and the rain gardens. Again, replanting. So year 2 and 3, very similar. Replanting, weeding, watering, checking your irrigation. You're going to check that irrigation, you know, I'd probably turn it on every time and just make sure, you know, I'm getting the coverage I want and I don't have any leaks. You're going to review your controller settings during that period. Let's see. See if I left anything out. Yeah, your mulch will decompose and add to the soil over time. It'll wash away. It's just that's why you're gonna have to renew it. Oh, here it says, as gardens mature, your maintenance, the nature of the maintenance becomes more seasonal. So regular maintenance can be interrupted by a larger 1 to several day pushes. So instead of maybe just bopping in for a couple hours, you go in for a full day. You know, that's a possibility, depending on it all depends on the size of the garden, right? A small, very, you know, just a small front yard garden, you can go in there and make your adjustments really quickly. But you know, who knows? They got a front yard, backyard, all this stuff. You're going to have to spend more time. It can take you a quarter hour, half an hour just to prune a sage, you know? So keep that in mind. We'll be going over that. Here somebody says, when you prune, you can leave plant material on the site. It helps augment the mulching. I have a small electric chipper that takes small pieces of wood and leaves. Yeah, love it. Sometimes I'll just take what I pruned and just snip, 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 snip. Just drop it on the ground, you know. Or if I don't like looking at the, so if so at Pitzer, they didn't like leaves. They didn't like leaves on the ground. It was a very, very tidy landscape. At Theodore Payne, they don't mind leaves, but I kind of find a place in between where sometimes I'll take the leaves and just scrunch them up. You can put them in that chipper and create a nice topping, or just add it in there, you know, like especially sycamore leaves. Sycamore leaves can just take over. So I'll scrunch them up, break them down, get that breakdown process going earlier, and then just add them back. It looks natural when I see some broken up sycamore leaves down below the plant. That's just a quick example. Okay, I have to scroll, I guess, because it's not letting me. There we go. Year 4, semi-monthly to monthly visits of 3 to 4 hours or as client requires. Again, you'll be hitting the, you might be going seasonally. You'll be making those adjustments and you'll have that agreement with your client depending on who you're working with and the size of the garden. Year 4, so you're going to be, most of the stuff you'll be doing as you go along. So, we see a hedge over here on the right, past the tree. I don't know what kind of tree we're looking at. You're going to have to be keeping that hedge up the whole time and training that hedge if they want. It looks pretty formal to me. So you're going to have to keep up with that thing starting, in year 2. You might even need to train it in year 1, depending on the goals of that. More vegetation means larger cuts with long-term planning and shaping. Yeah, this is where you're going to make decisions on the trees, larger limbs, things like that. You're going to have to get things out of the walkway. That can happen at any time. And you're just monitoring the garden. Year 4, weeding, all the same stuff. Weeding, replanting, water, check irrigation, review your smart controller settings. Okay, what you'll be seeing the difference is that the garden is the plants are going to be growing. You're going to be making different kinds of decisions. Okay. So really quickly, we're going to bounce to this. This is a fuzzy picture of our dear leader, Tim Becker. And he is the director of horticulture at Theodore Payne. And we're going to watch this. I have to unsave. I think we practiced this. So I'm going to stop sharing. Then I'm going to reshare. We're going to watch this video on preparing and planting a native plant. And I'm going to hit. Oh, here's what we're going to do. So smooth. I'm just smooth. Where's my share button? Share screen. Then it asks me which one I want to share. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And I'm going to share. And I'm going to hit that button. How's that look?
So I've selected a well-adapted California native plant
Is it
for my
working?
particular site conditions. In this case, it's Salvia Baja Blanca,
Yes, it looks
which is
good.
well suited and will thrive in our well-draining soil in mixed sunlight. It's kind of a part sunlight condition. So now that I have my plant and I know where I'm going to plant it, I'm going to prepare the site. I'm going to clear any weeds.
Everybody can hear? This is on YouTube.
Yes.
This is on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube. It's called Preparing and Planting California Natives. It's under our channel.
Share the link in the chat.
Did you put a link in?
Can you share the link in the chat?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Right after we watch it.
Okay, great.
Here we go.
Away, I'm going to dig my hole, which you're going to do with a round edge shovel or whatever you're comfortable with. And you're going to want that hole to be about twice as big as the can or the plant that you're planting. So in this case, a 1 gallon plant, I'm going to dig about a 2 gallon size hole. So this soil's nice and friable, it's really loose. This part of the garden has a lot of decomposed granite. So I have my hole dug right now, and I can tell just by handling the soil that it's fairly dry. It doesn't have a lot of moisture in it. When I ball it up, it's not holding together at all. So it's fairly dry. So I'm going to want to hydrate the hole by filling my hole, again, twice as big as my gallon, with a couple gallons water and letting that drain out. Now, this is another way to do the soil test. You would fill this hole with water and measure how long it takes to drain out. Faster it drains, the more sandy or coarse your soil is. So We have our hole dug and we've let the water drain out. Now it's time to place the plant inside the planting hole to measure your depth. Now, you can backfill at this point, and you definitely want to make sure that the plant is at or slightly above the level of the soil. So I can tell here that I need to backfill. My plant's too low. So that's all right. I can take that out. Backfilling, make sure that you don't include any rocks in the bottom of your hole if you need to raise the height a little bit. So I have the right height. I'm gonna pop that plant out, and I've selected a really good plant with nice, well-developed roots, not girdled. I'm gonna place that plant at the base of the hole right there, and then I'm gonna backfill. When I get about halfway full, I like to compact down a little bit. We're pushing out the air. Again, it's all about root to soil contact, which we want to be very high so that the plant can access water and nutrients in the soil. So again, I'm gonna pack down a bit. And now that I'm pretty much right at the level of the plant, what I'm gonna do next is build a little berm with some remaining soil. And I'm gonna leave that berm up for a couple months to maybe a year, depending.
Okay, stop that, stop the share. Stop share.
This
There we go.
device sold out in 15 minutes.
Uh-oh.
Here's why.
Oh no.
This genius college student just solved a 180 million year old bug problem.
Make it stop. Okay. So something I'd add to that is that you'll probably want to water that plant again because you're putting dry soil in next to the root ball. So you're going to want to water again so that you're sure that everything, it has the water it needs. And the berm usually erases itself over time, so it's not something you need to worry about removing usually. Let's see. I am now re-sharing. Share screen. There we go. Share. All right, we're back here. All right, what would you do each year with this garden? Let's start talking about year one at this garden. Here's the quick summation that I heard about this garden. It's a north-facing property. It is in Leimert Park, so mid-city. And they removed a lot of the soil and decided, I don't know if you can see, there's DG being used as the mulch, quote, mulch or top dressing. I don't know how thick it is. I wasn't involved with this project. So what do you see here? What do you think you're gonna have to be dealing with here? Anyone?
Probably pulling some weeds.
Yeah, I think so. Weeds are going to be a big deal. When you start adding water to this landscape, you're going to be getting some weeds for sure. Anything else?
A lot of shade.
Yeah, a lot of shade.
Sunlight.
Yeah, you're going to have to pick the plants properly. It's hard to know, I'm looking at the picture the same way you are. You would do an assessment of how the sun moves across the property before you start making
We're getting a
decisions.
lot of comments in the chat, so.
Okay, let's see. Let me pull up the chat.
So you can go from 647 down.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, you don't see any shade. Okay, well, maybe in the top right-hand corner picture, there's quite a bit of shade going on. The house seems to be casting a shadow across the weed and prune. Yep, pinching, absolutely. Building water runoff swales. Yeah, you can see a little slope coming down off the front yard here onto the sidewalk. So yeah, you're gonna want to catch that water. You're gonna want to make sure that depending on where the outlets are for the, although I don't see any gutters on this part of the house, you know, you're gonna want to do a water assessment on that property as well. Usually the customer will tell you, right? Oh, there you go. Find out how the water runs off property, dry creek bed with berms. Yep, there you go. Looks like they added DG before planting, which is interesting. I would think you would plant first and add top dressing afterwards. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they made that decision. It depends maybe on how thick it is, you know. And then at least you know that you can plant the plant at the right height if you have the DG in there. It's going to be different with mulch, you know. If you planted the plant, you'd be guessing how much DG to put in. Plus, it's going to be hard if you want to compact the DG a little bit. I mean, not too much, but if you wanted to stomp it out a little bit, it'd be hard to do it with all the plants in there. So I would look closely at plant selection and spacing. True. Look sketch. Looks like way too many plants to start off. Yeah, perhaps, depending on the goal, right? Let's move on to the next one. So here we are. This is about 6 months in, and it's somewhere in the first year. So what do we have?
So many wildflowers.
Wildflowers, yeah. Tons, right? I see a lot of, anything else? What else do you guys see? Okay, I'm seeing comments like wildflowers, boring.
There's a lot of plants creeping into the pathways and walkways.
That's right. So depending on the amount or what you're looking for, like you'll see that a lot at TPF. They like to break that barrier. At Pitzer, it was super tidy walkways. You know, it was really regimented. So some people like that, breaking that border. You know, you talk to the client about that. Poppies are cracked to gophers. Well, luckily there's a bunch. So you can afford to lose a few. No height variation. Yeah, I see that. So the poppies have grown. So my take on this is that the poppies are providing some interest while the plants are younger. The 1 gallon plants are growing. The poppies give you something. They give that habitat for you in the first year. And that's how my take on it. It gives you something to really enjoy. I think it's kind of joyful myself. But, you know, we all have opinions. So no trees. Yeah, no kidding. So again, not being there, not having the person here with us, we don't really know their intent. So no trees. Yeah. Too flat. Yeah, again, the plants are still small. Invasive Pride of Madeira. Yeah. Pride of Madeira, there it is. They must have really liked that plant, so they just decided to keep it. Yeah. Natalie says this is probably before everyone hated Pride of Madeira. Yeah, I remember the period where it was just everybody loved it, you know. So Emilio says it looks good to me. Yeah, here's somebody else. Phil, this is before the perennials are established, so the height variation will probably come later. There you go. Looks like they used annuals to fill in before the perennials established. Yeah, I think we're all on the same place there. The parkway is problematic. No step outs. Yeah, that's a nice point. Yeah. Sometimes I'll take a car, pull it up, see where the car door opens up, and that's where I put a path, because otherwise people are stomping all over your plants. Oh, there you go. Andrew says in Long Beach, you need a step out every 6 feet. So you got to pay attention. You know, you got to know the rules for that parkway. It doesn't belong to you. And then also somebody else pointed out in a previous class that there is a yucca in the middle of the parkway, which could be problematic depending on where you live and the regulations of the city you live in, or the place you live. Keeps kids out. Yeah, it does. Same with dogs, I suppose.
Eric,
So
just reaching out real quick.
Yeah.
It is 6:56. Just getting.
we're gonna get this sucker done, folks. We're gonna get you out of here and back to your families or your dogs or Netflix, whatever you like. Now we're moving. This is about 18 months. What are we seeing here?
Now that looks better.
Yeah, we're getting a little height dimension here, right? I see weeds. So there'll be some weeding, you know. And the other thing that people don't mention is that when you put the wildflowers in, there's a point at which they don't look so hot a lot of the time. And depending on your client, you know, in this case, you can bet there were a lot of dried up poppies out there, and you can let them reseed. You can collect the seeds. You can deadhead them. I don't have a lot of success with getting them to get a second bloom. Maybe some of you have. I don't really worry about it. Once it does its main thing, I don't stress about going around. I'm not going to go and cut all those poppies back and try to get a second. That's a lot of work right there. So there's plenty of work to do with dried wildflowers. You're going to have to keep up. You see these three, I don't know, the three stones down here in the upper picture on the right. Oh, you see all the stones, and there's some kind of thing growing in there. So you got to keep after that crabgrass. You're watering this thing, you know you're going to have to keep after this garden. But we see some nice height. Got a kind of modified chaparral thing going on here. It's kind of beautiful to me. Okay, this is year 2, somewhere in year 2. So what do you guys think?
I like the previous one.
Okay. Yeah, so let's see. I've had luck with Clarkia reseeding. Yeah. So some quick comments. The salvias are a bit too close to the sidewalk and step out, etc. Yeah. You got to keep an eye on that. You know, that comes with the planting, right? Knowing the size of the plant you're putting in, you want to make sure, you want to trust those dimensions. We list them at Theodore Payne. Let's see. Stephanie says it needs more hardscape, like boulders and at least one tree. Yeah, I could see boulders here. Yeah, you see that used a lot in these situations. Luis Sanchez says nice. Daniel Boggs says love the colors. Me too. You got a nice little drift. I'm not sure what the little blue babies are there. Anybody know? Andrew? Looks good. Andrew Chavez looks good. Nice balance of annuals and perennials will get bigger. True. Needs balance, too overwhelming. The color is beautiful though. I love that there's all these opinions, you know. We all have different styles and our clients have different styles, and it's up to us to interpret those styles, right? And those preferences. Undifferentiated in terms of design, needs more unity. You know, yeah, you can make that argument. To me, I dig it. Baby blue eyes, blue bells. Okay, 2 question marks. Yeah, blue-eyed grass, question mark. Hard to say. Maybe clusters of color would have more impact. I like the color though. The tree would help balance and provide shade. That's a good point. So blue eyes, yes. So Emilio says aesthetics at this point, this is great for wildlife. Okay, class is over. Natalie is ready to roll. Okay, sorry folks for dragging on. Let's move to the next slide because that's your homework. Take 3 pictures of native plants and send them to the instructor before the next class. The instructor is me, eric@theodorepayne.org. Not Claire Acosta. Okay, so thanks for bearing with me. This was my first Zoom class ever. Thank you for being patient and understanding. I'll see you guys next week. Here's the plan. I'm going to take Makita's suggestion. We're going to have next week, you guys type in who you are and what you hope to get out of this class. And hopefully I would like to get 5 people each week to introduce themselves to everybody else. Okay, that's it. We'll let you go.
Eric,
Enjoy.
before you go, can you put your
Yes.
email in the chat one last time?
One last time.
Yeah,
Here we go. One more time.
and we'll give everybody a couple of seconds to copy it and do what you need to do with it. Eric, you did a great job.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody, we can give Eric some hand claps.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. Little golf clap there. I saw that.
I'm gonna give you
All
a-
right, folks. Thank you, everybody, for your comments, your participation. Thanks for being part of the class and increasing your knowledge. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to hang out with Makita for just a second, just to touch base. And is that a good plan, Makita?
Yeah, it sounds good. And I just want to let everyone know that as far as the PDF of the workbook, we don't have it at USGBC, but you can reach out to, I believe it's Brenda, and she should be able to get that workbook and information to you. Also, we will be uploading the recorded video of this session prior to the next class. So we'll be working on that over the next day or 2 so we can get that out to everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.